How's it going, YouTube? Welcome to Trey's Toys. You got Big Trey on the line here. I wanted to do a little video about these two little blackjacks that Trey and I got us as our Christmas gifts. Show you a couple of shots of them and talk about them a little bit and some stuff that we did to them. They are both running the stock Firma 90 amp ESC and the stock 2200 kV motor. This is mine over here. Trey's was the first one I showed you. Stock ESC. I don't know if you can see if that's stock or not, but it is. Trey's boat is running the stock Servo. Mine is running a Amazon 35 kilogram Servo. I'll get to that in a minute. Trey is running a 46 millimeter 1.9 pitch high rake prop. Yesterday I was running a 45 millimeter 1.9 high rake prop, and tomorrow I'm going to be running this one, which is a 44 millimeter 1.9. I'm going to try a little bit different direction and see if a little more RPMs gets a little more mile an hour. Anyway, Trey went 62 with his yesterday with a set of SRD 2S packs. And we are a mile an hour off of Jeremy's record. We're going to keep pushing that and see what we can do while Jeremy can't catch up with us right now because he's frozen in up there. Sorry, dude, had to poke at you a little bit. But anyway, Jeremy gave me the setup tips for these boats, and he's been really cool to talk to. Kind of becoming one of my YouTube online friends, I would say. So anyway, so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about this, I don't know if anybody's ever discussed it before, but the stock servos that come with these boats, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, are pretty junky. So what we found was when I put a fresh 4S pack or two 2S batteries in here to just make sure the radio is calibrated, they steered fine, but when they would come back to neutral, they would slow down at about the 10% mark, and then they would struggle to come back to neutral. No matter what I did, they both did exactly the same thing. So I took the steering linkage off, and I did notice that in the stock position on the servo horn, they're very close to the top of the boat. They didn't seem to be binding in the boot or anything like that, and the ball end over here is not binding up. So to give the servo the best mechanical advantage that I could, I took the servo horn off the servo and I drilled out the second hole on the servo horn, and what that does is it just gives the servo a stronger mechanical advantage. The further away you get from the center axis of the servo, the harder it is for it to push. These are pretty weak servos, so the closer you can get it to the output gear, the better performance you're going to get. It's not going to throw as far because of that. And it's going to slow it down a little bit because of the same reason. If you're up here, you're throwing this much in the same time that you're throwing a shorter distance in the same time. Anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense, but lowering it down makes it easier for the servo to push out. It just changes the throw ratio on that. You do have to drill out the second hole because only the top hole is drilled to accept the collet that's on here. So I think it is 7/64. It's one size under 1/8 that I used to drill that out. It's like 2.74 millimeters or something like that. And basically I drilled it through with that, and then I kind of wallowed it out until this fit in there, just past not no tolerance, but just kind of slid in there. You don't want any drag on that. Like I said, we're trying to ease up the servo's job. Anyway, when I did that to Trey's, the servo acted normal after that. It would come back to neutral fine from left and right, and we were good with that. So mine, on the other hand, did not. This is the stock servo out of the boat. I would call it defective from Pro Boat. Mine would not center no matter what, even after I drilled it out, and I tried to free it up and make sure there was nothing grabbing. It was all free in the servo linkage, but it just didn't work. I have a couple of these little Amazon servos in my box. I have the red ones, I think they're 25 kilograms, and I have the blue ones. They're 35 kilograms. This was the first one when I opened up my toolbox. That was on the top. I grabbed that and put it in there, and problem solved. And I also had already reamed out the other hole. So it's got the mechanical advantage and it's got a little digital servo in there now. These are about 25 bucks on Amazon, by the way. The red ones are less than 20. We both running our own receivers and transmitters in here. I have a FRG 4 or F4RG or something like that. It's just the basic old Fly Sky Noble receiver, probably the cheapest one you could get. It's kind of big, so it barely fit in there. I actually had to drill another hole for the servo wire, for the receiver wire to come out, and it's short anyway, and that's why I got this little stubby antenna on there, because just the antenna portion of the coax is sticking out the boat. Trey's has a radio link receiver. It's a much smaller receiver, and of course he's got his full length antenna right there. Some other stuff that I did to the boats was I of course checked all the tightness on all of the set screws on the motor collet and the drive dog. I pulled the flex cable out, cleaned off the old grease that came with it from the factory, because for whatever reason it felt like tar. I used some brake cleaner to wipe that clean, and when I did that, the little bushing that fits in the strut, you can actually almost spin it on the shaft like a bearing after you clean that old grease off. So if you guys are not doing that, you need to pull that out initially, and I guarantee you the driveline loss alone, if you run it right out the box, is probably worth 4 or 5 miles an hour alone. I did the same thing with mine. I don't know if I said it or not, but we're both running these little CNC props. I probably said it already, so I don't want to repeat myself. But in the other videos, I tell you what props we're running. I'm getting old, guys. Sometimes I have a brain fart mid-sentence. But anyway, so like I said, they're stock other than the receivers and the servo for me. Trey went 62 with the set of SRD packs in his, the hard case 2S SRDs. And all I ran in mine was the economy packs, which I got 59, I think, was the best I got with, oh no, I'm sorry, guys. I got 57 with the economy packs. Trey got 59 with the economy pack. So Trey's is a freer running boat. All the prop is just working that much better, which it's a bigger prop. So, 62 with SRDs and 57 with economies in this one, and 59 with economies in this one. Other than that, let's see. The rudders are still the dull blunted edge that ProBoat sends them out with. I'm going to probably sharpen those before we go out tomorrow. Just to, if it gives us a mile an hour, hey, it's a mile an hour that I'll take. The bottoms of the boats, of course, are fresh out the box from ProBoat. Nothing special there. I'm not going to modify a plastic boat. The hull can just stay the way it is. I have a couple little different decals on mine to differentiate, and the stubby antenna. Trey's is completely stock out the box as far as the livery. But yeah, that's about what I got for the boats. Oh yeah, so Jeremy's strut setting. Thanks again, Jeremy. You the man, of course. And that's whose record we chasing. Overpowered RC Boats. Check them out, guys. So the magic setting for the strut with the 4S setup at least is 6mm gap between the bottom of the strut stand and the strut itself. That's what both of these are. So what I did was I used a little cheap set of a little cheap micrometer and measured off 6mm. And what I also found, to make this even easier for future reference, is that this old Craftsman 8mm, the box end, the width of this is exactly 6mm. So I basically have a custom feeler gauge to use as a measuring device for these. So for field use, I don't even have to have the micrometer with me. I can just use the end of the box and wrench, which I keep in the box anyway, because I use this on some of the small collets for the 150 and 130 shafts on my boats. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, so I just wanted to shout that out too. I use Lucas Marine grease. That's what I use in all the boats. That stuff stays really slick, and it's usually good for a day worth of use. So I'm not even going to open up Pro Boats grease, because if it was the same thing that they had in there from the factory, then I don't want no part of it. So, oh yeah, so this is a camera. That's what the kids got me for Christmas. Thank you, kids. Love y'all. That is a DJI Osmo Action 4. That's what all of the footage that I posted today was shot with. It's really cool. What I like about it the most is on the hat mount, it frees up another hand. So I can fool with the GPS, or I don't even have to fool with anything. I can film Trey, film myself, and it's hands-free. So we're going to still work out the bugs with that. I found out when I loaded up all my videos today that everything was in slow motion because my frame rate was too high and the iPhone couldn't process that. So I had to load everything into iMovie, and then when I loaded it back into my photos, it was normal speed. So we're working out the bugs. We'll figure it out. One last thing I wanted to ask you guys. So when you're taping up these things, what in the heck are you doing about the seam right here around the antenna, which ProBoat gives you a very generous 2.5 millimeters max. That's being very generous. And same thing in the back here about a water discharge outlets. What I did was cut with a razor knife the first strip of about 8 inches in half down the middle, and I put the first piece across the back transom here, and then I kind of walked the second piece up to about 3/4 up, and then the rest of the boat I was able to use my my regular 1-inch hockey tape that I use. But the first section I had to split down the middle to use the back. I wanted to know what you guys are using for that, how you taping these boats up. Short of removing the antennas and drilling a hole someplace back here where it'd be way more inconvenient, I don't see any other way around that unless it just cuts slots, or unless you guys aren't even really worried about getting it that tightly sealed back there. I just thought it would be cool to discuss and see what you guys are doing for the tape jobs. But I think that's about it. Yeah, that's the 2 factory radios and receivers. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with those. I don't know if I got any projects, or if somebody needs a radio, we can sell them real cheap. But anyway, guys, hopefully I'll have some more videos out tomorrow. We're going to run these 2 boats, I think, for sure. We're going to bring Trey's M700, and we're going to bring the Wild Thing out again. I might leave the rigger and the little boat home. It's just getting to be too much to bring every single boat every time, and charge batteries after for the runs and everything. So, but all right, guys, I will let you go. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.